Hey everybody, and welcome to the Katie Weaver Show. This is Katie, I'm your host. I'm so happy to be here. If you are listening live, I've got a big box of glass sitting next to me. I guess we'll have to live with it. Uh, if you're listening live, it is about 11 a.m. Pacific time on the 22nd of April. If you're listening to an archive or a replay, I also want to welcome you to the show. Per always, I want to let you know that we are over in the chat room. You can find that by heading over to 12radio.com. Click on the chat and you'll be redirected, or click on the chat button and you'll be redirected into the Facebook chat. That is a private group, so if you haven't joined before, you'll need to ask for entry, but you'll see my banner at the top of the page, and that's where we're chatting from. So I do have a couple of things to share from there. Realized at the last minute I hadn't downloaded my pictures, so I'm doing that real quick. We've had some excitement because Scott decided he wanted to do chickens this year, and we have not done chickens in a decade, probably. But here we are. And so he wanted to do Brahmas specifically. Brahmas are a gigantic chicken. They're like foghorn leghorn. They're the big guys. They can be about as big as a turkey. And so I've not done Brahmas before, but you know how it goes. He saw somebody on TikTok with Brahmas and he loved them and decided that we should have Brahmas too. Could not find any Brahmas locally, like chicks to order, but we have a very nice incubator setup that again hasn't been used in a long time. But he ordered chicks or eggs, sorry. He ordered fertilized eggs from eBay from 2 different chicken farmers, and here we are. So, yesterday morning, you go out and check on them. The incubator has to be a certain temperature, it has to be a certain humidity. So it takes kind of a daily check-in. Even if you're not expecting babies yet, it still takes a daily check-in just to make sure that you've got everything there that you need and want. As far as your environment is concerned. With chickens, the humidity is, you need a certain humidity or their eggs are too hard and they can't hatch. But really important with ducks, but with chicks too, there's just a certain level of humidity you have to accomplish. So at any rate, he went out yesterday to check, and lo and behold, he had chicks that had hopped out of their shells. And that's always the thing. You have them in the incubator and they're turning, they're doing the thing. And at some point, they'll start to pip. That's what pipping looks like right here. So that's where they're just starting to make a hole in the egg. And this is where you have to practice the ultimate in self-restraint. You cannot help them. You can't. I know people do. We were always warned if you help them hatch, they will likely die because they're hatching at the pace that they are because they are detaching from the inside of the egg. And so if you help them hatch, you can likely kill them. And also the process of hatching is a part of them like waking up and getting their strength. And so anyway, it's important that you do not start picking at that egg and start helping them to hatch. And I promise you it's tempting. We have done it in the past when we had babies that didn't seem like they were going to get out, and guess what? They almost always die. So you have to have restraint. You have to be a grown-up about it and let nature take its course and do its job. But anyway, that's a pip. So we just noticed that one just like 15 minutes ago. And the way these babies have been hatching, when they pip, it's only been taking them a few hours to hop out of the shell, but you never know. So we'll check on him again later this afternoon and see where he's at. But in the meantime, we've got these 4. 2 that were out of the shell and wandering the incubator yesterday, and 1 that had pipped and 1 that hadn't. The one that pipped was fully out of his shell by about 6 p.m. last night, And we went to bed last night with one pip. Uh, he's still in the shell and got up this morning and he was out and dry and fluffy and running around. So there you go. So we have a couple dozen eggs. We've been candling them to see if there's you and candling means that you put a flashlight up to them and you can see, usually you can tell if there's a chick inside just by how much is in there. If it's like dried out and you can only see a little yolk sitting in the bottom, you probably don't have a viable egg. Um, some of these guys obviously are going to pip soon because you can hold a flashlight up and see their heart beating and see them moving around a little bit. So it's it's fun. Hatching eggs is it's such a magical, amazing thing in nature to experience. And so just excited to see that in action. So here's a little video. The fan from the incubator is really loud, so I apologize, but I was hoping you could hear their little peeps. They're so cute. They will grow so fast that I'll show you a picture in a week and you're going to be dumbfounded that these are the same birds. Yeah, they are adorable, but oh boy, I'm putting my foot down on roosters. I made Scott promise if we hatched roosters, which inevitably we did, or will, that he will rehome those because roosters can be real assholes in any size of egg chickens, but in these big guys, oh dear. Nobody wants to get their ass kicked. Right. What breed do I recommend for a total newbie to the chicken scene? A Rhode Island Red. Rhode Island Reds are really easy. They're really nice chickens. They're typically really friendly. And never have a rooster, ever. Just have hens. And usually you can buy them specifically, by sex, unless you're hatching them, of course. But at any rate, that's where we're at. So, yeah, kind of fun. So I did put pictures in the chat room too, if you're over in the chat, so that you could see what we're dealing with over here. I'm such, oh gosh, this is ironic, but I was going to say I'm such a chicken. I am so afraid of dead birds. So afraid. It's insane. But I am, and I am. I've tried to work on it, from time to time, but that's just who I am. So I wanted to run out there first thing when I got out of bed this morning, and I was too scared. What a baby. But because some of them will die. It's just inevitable, unfortunately. Chickens are a lot more sturdy than turkeys. We had turkeys years ago. We had a heritage breed called Slate Blues, and they were super cool. But man, turkeys love to die. It is wild. They are just used to I don't know what, but the turkey babies are fragile. Not nearly and chickens are not as fragile, but still, every once in a while you'll go out and you'll have one that's just flat as a pancake and everyone's running around on top of them and there's no reason about it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Sid. I don't even care about the noise of the roosters at all. I love the noise. I think that the wake up call or all day call from roosters is fun. And where I live, like that wouldn't be a thing that would bother people so much, but it's the aggression. Whew. We've had roosters in the past that will chase you clear across the pasture and jump on you and spur you and stuff like that. And I am too old and slow, and those chickens are too big for me to put up with that. I don't think we'll have a hard time rehoming them because these are Brahmas, and Brahmas are really hard to find around here for whatever reason. It's why we ordered eggs from out of state and shipped them in because nobody's doing them. So hopefully, even though they're roosters, somebody will be interested in taking them to their farm. Yeah. Right? I'm not afraid of dead people, just dead birds. That, yes. It's childhood trauma, and it is because of my mother. I will not speak ill of the dead, but she did this to me. Yes. Oh, Amy says she had a neighbor that had a Rhode Island Red that was a lap chicken. She loved her. Yes. They are, they're good chickens. They are, without a doubt. There are others like the barred Plymouth Rocks, I think they're called, that I think are the cutest chickens. They're black and white, kind of stripy, geometric looking. They're so cute. But oh my Lord, they are well, what can you say? Chickens. They're scared of everything and they're not very friendly. We had a whole pack of them and years ago and you couldn't get anywhere near them and we had handled them as babies and done, what we typically did, but I'm telling you, we just couldn't tame them. Whereas the Rhode Island Reds just want to be your best friend. Yeah. Is Scott making a chicken run and shed? We have them. We have them. They've just been standing empty for a long time. Yeah. So our barn, one half of our barn was converted to a turkey run years ago, and it hasn't had anything in it for quite a while. So he just had to fix a little fence and, shore it up a little bit, and it's going to be perfect for him. So someday, in 9 months or so, we'll probably start having a few eggs. Laurie thought she read my tagline. It's the wisdom of the Ogham today. And she thought it said the wisdom of the orgasm. Totally different show. Totally different. But I don't know. I don't know. You'll have to just learn about the Ogham and decide. Maybe. I do have a product highlight for you. So I'll bring that to you first. So I tried, last week was the first time that I did a monthly drop on Etsy where I dropped a whole collection of things that I had made the month before. And that worked out beautifully. I sold out of things pretty quickly, but I do have items left and I just thought I think I'm going to try to every week just do a little product highlight. So I'm going to show you something today. Do I have to worry about daytime predators snatching the chickens? Typically, no. One time a neighbor dog got, unfortunately, a chicken's head through the fence. That ended badly. And another time, the last of our flock, we had 6 hens, and we just went out one morning and all 6 of them had been slain by something in the night. No idea what it was. They were like piled up on top of each other too. It was very weird. Somebody said they thought that was probably behavior of a raccoon, but no, we haven't in the past. That was in a different chicken pen, however, that had an open top. And the pen they're going in, this turkey pen has a closed top. So that should make a difference. But they have a big run. They have a ton of room. But so typically no, but it is what wiped out our flock. It was a predator. So what do I know? Yeah. Okay, so I want to show you, and I just put up a link to my Etsy store, but these are some polymer clay pendants that I made a while back that I just think are so cool. Polymer clay is so much fun. There's so many things, and I'm blown away by the stuff I see other people make, but I learned how to make cane. Uh, some cane, people make unbelievable cane. The details that they can get in there, I don't know how their brains think that way. I wish my brain thought that way, but maybe it will the more I do cane. But I did learn how to do the geode style pendants, or cane, which is super cool. So it's a series of stacking different kinds of clay and like gradient colors of clay and the silver gold leafing all together and rolling it all up tight and then slicing it into individual slices, which is what you see here in this pendant. Is the pictures don't do them justice in that The center part of that looks whitish is actually translucent. So when you hold them up to the light, you can see through them, which is pretty cool. But I have a whole collection of these. So I have a square pendant, and then I have several round pendants, two that are a little smaller and one that's a little bit bigger. But these just turned out so cool. I absolutely loved them. I tried to do cane again in a different color, or this cane, and it was fugly. I didn't even turn it into pendants or anything because it wasn't worth it. But this one is my favorite. It turned out so freaking cool. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and of course, always remind you that I do have my Etsy, and I'm always creating more things and working on things for that. So the bee bowls sold out really fast, and I do have a plan to get more bee bowls going probably tomorrow. Over at the True Crime Squad, we are neck deep in the Lori Vallow trial, and the jury is out. I am saying cane. Yeah, that's how you make polymer clay stuff. You make a cane, which is essentially a rolled up or a like hexagonal piece of clay that you slice and lay all those slices together, and then you roll them out a little bit and like stick them together, or you run them through your pasta machine thing that rolls them, and then you cut out your shapes from that. So yeah, Sid, that's exactly what I'm saying. So anyway, yes, Lori Vallow is the jury went out yesterday. They deliberated for 17 minutes and wanted to go home. So I, I'm not quite sure what that means, but they did. And so now they've been back in deliberations now for almost an hour. So we'll see. I don't know on this one. I really don't. I think it's hard to say that the state really fully made their case because there was so much evidence that they weren't allowed to use, which is crazy. But this is our criminal justice system. And it's to protect your rights, no argument there, except for that in protecting rights, a lot of evidence wasn't allowed to be used because the people that were the witnesses are all deceased. Because this is the trial of Lori Vallow. She's charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the murder of her husband, Charles Vallow. And in that case, the witnesses were her brother Alex, who actually did the shooting, her daughter Tylee, and her son JJ. And she went on 2 months later and killed Tylee and JJ. And then Alex died in a very suspicious, strange way about a month after that. So all of the witnesses, all of the people that were present except for her, are deceased. And so a fair amount of evidence that Charles had really compiled 6 months before and up to the time of his death in telling people that he was worried about his safety, in begging police officers for help, in filing for a divorce briefly, in talking to the insurance company and changing his policy. All of those things they said they couldn't bring in because of hearsay. I don't know, you guys. If this jury doesn't, if they come back guilty, I'm going to be really glad, but I'm not going to be terribly devastated or surprised if they don't. This is a hard one. Amy said, I wish they could have just mentioned that everyone there that day are dead and at least two by Lori's hands, right? They couldn't even say that to protect her rights. So the jury doesn't even know that these kids they heard all about throughout this whole trial, that they're gone, and they're gone because of her. Is she clever enough to do away with key witnesses in advance? Yes. That's why Alex is gone. And maybe the kids too. I think Tylee probably, because Tylee obviously knows exactly what actually happened or did. Nah, she's that clever. She's also been representing herself, so it's been super interesting to watch her at work. But anyway, so we're sitting on jury watch there, and I had this thought. I'm like, if the jury were to come back, I'd have to miss my show today, but they're not back yet, as far as I know, so here we are. I guess if I find out they came back, I'd have to I'd have to say goodbye, but I don't think so. I think it's going to take them a little bit longer than that. So it's all good. All right. Well, let's get into it because we actually have a big show today. I was going to do this last week, and then I got so busy, so enchanted by those elephants last week that I had to do a show about elephants. But, oh, Patricia, you're going to get silkies? They are really sweet. Oh, yeah, the turkeys, oh, they will definitely come after you too. Yeah, jerks. I've always wanted aracanas. They're the ones that they call them the Easter eggers, but their eggs are the colors. They're small. They're small little eggs, and they're or smallish for chickens, and they can be blue or greenish or pink. Okay, well, let's get into it because this is what I've been wanting to talk about for a hot minute, and it's about the Ogham. It's spelled Ogham, Ogham. It's pronounced Ogham, or you'll hear people pronounce it a little bit different, but this is the ancient Celtic tree alphabet. And it is fascinating, just fascinating. So that's what I want to talk about. So I put together an article about the Ogham, and I'm going to teach you a few things. I've had a set of Ogham staves for, oh my gosh, a good decade or more. I bought these at a metaphysical store in Boise, and I had never heard of them before. No background, no idea. I was so enchanted by these. I went into that store not intending to buy, well, these, and they were really more money than I had to spend, but I had to have them. You know, you ever have those moments? I'm usually pretty conservative in the money I spend. I'm much more, I like earning money lots more than I like spending it. But sometimes there's something your soul needs it, your heart needs it, your spirit needs it. I needed the Ogham staves. So this is what they look like. It's going to be a small picture. Let me pull this down for a minute. This is what they look like. They are a divination tool. And each symbol, they kind of have a runic flair, right? Each symbol represents a different tree. And then each of those symbols stand for different attributes. So reading them is similar to runes. But these are just really interesting. And if you have a lot of if you have a Celtic background in your ancestry, or you feel a deep pull to that, like from past lives, this is something that I know will sing to your soul. So I won't show you every one, but I wanted you to show you how they look in case you want to make yourself a set. And I have lots of information for you today in case you do. Hey, Lauren. Or Laura, not Lauren. Oh, your husband reads Ogham? That's awesome, Amy. I love it. I haven't used these in a while, and I was just reading a book actually recently that they were using. You guys, if you're looking for a book series, read the Seven Waters series. It starts as the Seven Waters trilogy, but she actually flares out from there with about 4 more books. I think there's 7 in the whole series. It's ancient Ireland. It's magic. It's love stories. It's amazing. It's there's sorcerers, there are druids, there are fae, but it's not like really fantastical. It's more like regular people, and magic is just a part of their lives. I have been devouring these books. So when I buy a book, I usually buy it on Amazon, and I know, boo, Amazon, but here we are. Um, but when I buy a book, I usually buy the Kindle edition and the Audible edition at the same time. Because if you do that and you have them both on your device, they'll communicate with each other. So I can get in bed at night and read for a couple hours. And then in the morning, while I'm doing housework and stuff, if I want to just pick up where I left off and read and listen, you just open your Audible account and It'll, time up to where you were when you were reading on your Kindle app. So anyway, that's how I do it. But these books are enchanting. The accents and the speakers, oh, in love. So anyway, it is the Seven Waters series, and I wasn't prepared to tell you the name of the author, so let me look at that really fast because I can't remember. Juliet, oh good Lord. Juliet Marier. It's Marlier. Marier? I don't know if that's how you say it. But if you look up the Seven Waters series, you'll find it. I mean, that's simple enough. I can't imagine there's another. So, anyway, but in these books, they are using divination, they're using Ogham, they are using runes, and it's just really interesting. It would be nice if they had print plus Audible, because yeah, when you buy a print book or when you buy an Audible book and you add the the Audible, but if you buy the Kindle book and you add the Audible, it is way cheaper. Way, way cheaper. And you're also, just always earning your digital points with them too. And so, and with if you have Audible, then you pay a monthly charge, but you get a free book or get a book each month from that too. So I'm just going to put a link in the chat room so that if you want to go look them up, you can. Oh, good Lord. That's a really long link. I don't know if that's going to help you at all. Okay. Anyway, with all of that being said, it got me thinking about my staves and how much I loved those when I got them and I did use them for quite a while. I just haven't really pulled them out in a while, but how much they sang to my heart. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So we're going to get into it. I'm just going to share you a screenshot too of the cover of the first book of the series so you can see it. These would have been a fun book club. That's what the first book looks like. Okay. Well, getting back to the topic at hand. So the Ogham originated with 20 characters. They're each linked to a specific tree or plant. The modern interpretation of Ogham, kind of like runes, they have more. They've been added to. So a lot of the more modern descriptions of the Ogham, you'll actually find 25 versus the original 20. You know, like they did in runes and just really upset some of the rune people. Remember the big fight over whether you use the blank rune or you don't, and the blank rune was added after and it's not authentic, and some people really believe in the blank rune and blah, blah, blah. Similar to that, but just letting you know there's more than one way to do this, and it just depends on who you talk to. But we're talking most specifically about the original 20 characters. So again, they respond to a different tree or shrub. So I'm going to tell you what each tree is and then what they stand for. I'm not going to give you the Irish name because I do not pronounce it correctly and I'm not going to disrespect it that way. So you can look at them and decide. So birch represents new beginnings, purification, and fresh starts. Birch clears the path so that you can begin again with a clean slate. The rowan tree represents protection, intuition, and heightened spiritual awareness. Rowan is the guardian tree, especially for empaths and mystics. The alder tree is the bridge between realms, spiritual protection, and emotional strength. Alder thrives on both water and earth and is a symbol of balance. The willow represents intuition, lunar connection, and deep emotional healing. Willow teaches you to bend and not break. The ash represents cosmic wisdom, connection between worlds, and purpose. Ash is the world tree, the spine of the universe. Hawthorn represents heart healing, boundaries, and fairy magic. Hawthorn protects the heart, but also opens it. The oak represents strength, endurance, and sacred doorways. Oak is the tree of kings and druids. It says, "Stand tall, you've got this." The holly represents protection in battle, masculine energy, and the warrior spirit. Holly guards your home and your heart. The hazel represents knowledge, creativity, and divine inspiration. Hazel drops wisdom like nuts from its branches, so pay attention. The apple represents choice, love, beauty, and sacred sexuality. There it is, Laurie. Apple is the fruit of Avalon and the gateway to enchantment. The vine represents inner voice, prophecy, and release of ego. Vine teaches you to spiral inward and find your truth. The ivy represents determination, growth through obstacles, and spiritual persistence. Ivy climbs. It reminds you to not give up. The reed represents direction, clarity, and direct communication. Reed is a scribe's tool and a wand for speaking truth. The blackthorn represents challenge, protection through adversity, and initiation. Blackthorn is a witch's ally during shadow work. The elder represents release, endings, death, and rebirth. Elder clears away what's done to make space for what's to come. The silver fir represents clarity, higher perspective, and resilience. The silver fir reaches upward and sees the long game. The gorse, abundance, hope, and sunny energy. Gorse blooms bright and reminds you that joy still grows after winter. Heather represents dreams, healing, and ancestral connection. Heather lays low but sings in whispers. Listen. The poplar or aspen represents courage, letting go of fear, and rebirth. Poplar quakes but still stands. And the yew, the eternal cycle of transformation and timeless wisdom. Yew is the tree of ancestors, death, and soul-level alchemy. You have undoubtedly heard of yew being used in magic before. Yeah. So the uses of Ogham in modern magic. Lots of ways to weave it into your spiritual practice. Obviously, with divination, you can make your own staves. So you can make staves, and I have seen staves made out of, I've seen them made out of clay. I've seen them made out of resin. Personally, I would make them out of wood because, wood? Am I crazy? But I know that's a little bigger ask. However, I think there's a lot of ways you could do this. I have seen people just buy at the craft store the little wooden circles, that are about like that big. They're just slices of a branch, and just use a Sharpie or another kind of marker and just write the symbols on each one and put them in a bag, and here you go. Oh, that's a good idea. Amy said her husband's first set he made with popsicle sticks. Simple. Yes. You could also you can buy various little bits of wood in the craft store for all kinds of things. So you could do a lot of things that way. Um, if you really wanted to like make a set that was more in depth, you'd whittle them. I mean, these are pieces of a branch, and the guy who made these, he would make a few sets a year and sell them to the store that I purchased it from. They told me all about it, how cool it was he was doing. But he took a branch and he cut it into about the same size segments, and then he whittled each end a little bit. They're not pointy, but they're kind of rounded off. And then he whittled out a little boat in the middle, right? And then he used a wood burner and burned in the symbols. Definitely more work, but it could be done. And it would be a fun process, in my opinion, to kind of reacquaint yourself with being outside, doing something with a knife. Like, this is pretty primal stuff. So you'd have to have a pocket knife, and you'd have to learn how to use it without killing yourself with it or cutting off your fingers. Uh, when I was a kid, my dad had a drawer full of pocket knives. We all had a pocket knife. We'd go hunting and fishing with this man, and none of us really hunted or fished, but by God, we all had a pocket knife, and we'd be whittling at everything we could get a hold of. So the idea of whittling something like this to me doesn't seem too far out of the the possibility of in my imagination, but maybe it would be to somebody else. Uh, so I know that's a lot. But again, like Amy said, a popsicle stick or, just a little branch that you can find cut up at the craft store or whatnot. I think there's a lot of ways to do this and use wood. However, if you want to use a rock, and just write them all on rocks, that's fine. If you want to make them, again, out of resin or out of clay, nothing wrong with that either. So those are thoughts. So I do have the whole listing of what shapes these are so that you know what they mean and which ones to make. So that's in my notes, so I'll show them to you later. I don't think so, Sid. I mean, mine are all pretty close to the same size, but not completely. I mean, some of them are definitely thinner than others. And a lot of them have like a little knot or a notch or, little spot in them that probably had another branch that was gleaned off of it. So, no, I think it's like that one's really long and skinny. I don't think so. I mean, you're going to throw them a lot the way you would runes. So, I don't think it really matters, no. Right, you were right, Laurie. Okay. So you could make your staves and then and you could also just paint or draw your symbols on if you wanted to. But the way you cast them, you can do a few different things. I actually have in the past really liked to do a spread, just like you would do with, potentially like a runic spread or an oracle card spread. But essentially, right, you have your staves, you ask your question while you're pulling. And for me, I think I like to pull 3. So you can do it that way. So you just reach in the bag while you're asking your questions and you pull ones out, and line them up. Or you can cast them, you can toss them. So you would take them in your hand or you would just take the bag and dump it. And it would be the 3 that are closest to you that land would be the ones that you read. There's a lot of different ways you could design that, but those are a couple of ways you can use them. You can also just do what do I need to know today kind of message and just draw out one and just sit with it and with that tree and the spirit of that tree and that message. That's another really simple way to use them. So, as with all divination, it's always about forming your question appropriately. If you're asking yes or no questions, don't bother, because that's not what these are going to answer. The most appropriate question when working with runes or staves is to ask something along the lines of, show me the path around, show me what I need to understand about, show me the potential outcome if. It's broad. It gives you a lot to think about. It's definitely not going to give you a yes or no answer. So you have to think about that question. And when you go to use any kind of divination, that's your first step, right? Is to get really clear on your question. And if you want to write it down in front of you so that you really can focus on what you're asking, so that once you read or once you poll, you can read them and think about their meanings and how that pertains to your question, great. They're toys for your soul, right? These are tools for you to be able to play with intuition, but also for you to be able to get some divine guidance. And this is nature magic. This is about as primal magic as you'll get, in my opinion. Ritual work. If you need to support a specific intention, call on the energy of the corresponding tree. So, for example, blackthorn is helpful when you're doing shadow work. So maybe you draw that symbol out on your altar, or maybe you carry a twig from the blackthorn if you can get a hold of one, or maybe you trace that Ogham line into a candle before you light it, or you create one that you wear. Very common for people to wear a rune, very simple with the Ogham as well, to choose a certain Ogham symbol that supports what you're working on right now and wear it somewhere on your body. Yeah. Or come on, get a tattoo. You know I will. All right. Nature connection. If you're feeling disconnected, take a walk and intentionally look for the tree you need most. Sit with it, touch its bark, and listen. You don't have to know the symbol or even the tree to benefit from the magic of trees, right? You don't have to be able to walk up to a tree and say, oh yeah, this is definitely an elm. If you do, great. And if you want to get more acquainted with trees, this would be a good opportunity to do so. But even then, take a walk in the park. Take a walk in a local forest. Take a walk where there are trees and sit with those trees. When you sit with your back against a tree and breathe with it, you are grounding yourself to the energy of that tree. That is incredibly calming. That's incredibly earth affirming, spirit affirming. But it's also a great way to connect with your intuition. So just connecting with trees. Now say that you do have, specific trees around you that you want to connect with, and they are trees that connect to the Ogham, and you want to connect with them for that reason. Yes. If you harvest a stick or a branch from a tree, just always ask permission and then offer a thank you. Some people might drop some salt or some tobacco. Some people will just put their hand on the tree and thank it for its contribution. Always be super wise and careful about that. Don't ever carve up a tree. And if you're going to take a branch or a stick, look for ones that are already in their demise, so that, or that are laying around the tree that it's already dropped. Just don't ever, let's not ever, the New Age community has been, we've kind of sucked in some ways on nature. Like, for example, with white sage. White sage has almost been completely deforested because of us. Because we all thought we had to have white sage to clear everything, which we know isn't true. But every metaphysical store you walk into, what do they have? Lots of bunches of white sage. That's just very commonplace in the New Age world. It turns out it's pretty bad for the environment. Frankincense is similar in that aspect. So, always be a good conservationist. Be good to the earth. All right, we talked about crafting your own staves. There is a thought that people could get all 20, a piece of all 20 different trees or shrubs, or a piece of them to make staves out of, which would be amazing. You don't have to do that. It would be cool. It would be a fun practice. You'd be having to probably order bits of wood, from here and there to get all of the things because they probably don't all grow where you live. So you could do that, but you certainly don't have to. Okay. Once you've made a set, we've really already talked about that. Once you've made a set, then you want to bless it and charge it. So you want to clear them. You can do that with smoke or with salt or with the moonlight. And then if you do altar work, you can do it this way. If you don't, you can just hold them in your heart that you want to bless them or awaken them to work for you. So a good blessing is from tree and twig, from wind and earth. I call your wisdom now to birth. Speak to me through line and bark. Light the way when days grow dark. And then sit with them. As is with every other divination tool, you want to attune them to your energy. If you get a new a new pendulum, I always say put it in your bra or in your pocket and just keep it on your body for a few days. Let it really attune to you. With your staves, I would also do that. I would keep it on your body in some way, or even sleep with them under your pillow, but keep them with you for a few days as best you can, depending on how big your set turns out to be. But it's good with a divination tool to let them attune to your energy. Right, Bean? I agree. It's something that we need to be mindful and careful about. Also, because, in the New Agey community, we love to collect crystals, and we've beat the shit out of the earth with crystal collection practices, mining practices. We can all be more mindful. Okay. There's a lot we don't know about the Ogham. We don't know its exact origins or how it was used day to day. There is some belief that they were only used for divination. There is some belief that this was a true alphabet that was used for language. It doesn't matter. This is ancient. It was probably used for both in some way, in some time. But it's also an amazing way to connect to your own ancestry, to your own roots, to your own past lives, to connect to a system like this. It's also really grounding in general to work with energy like this. And honestly, we spend our lives these days on the internet, around electronics, all the time. It doesn't matter if you're not even trying to dial in. You may have smart things in your house, which is fine. But everywhere you go, you're exposed to electronics. And we have such a lack of being exposed to the natural world. And I think that systems like this just help us to kind of return to who we are in some aspect. That's how it feels to me. Over at Refeminist History with Kelly, her article in her podcast this week is about the librarian and the astrophysicist. Spoiler alert, it's not Katy Perry. She's got a great article about who she's talking about. The librarian is Bella de Costa Green, and the astrophysicist is Dr. Maslin Othman. Sorry. It's awesome. Her article's fairly short, but you'll get some background into why she's covering these women. And then go back. If you click on this purple link right here, you can go straight to her podcast and listen to their episode about it. But as always, she's bringing women to us that you should have known about and definitely don't, because that's just not who our society focuses on. But we need to know more about the baddies. We need to be them. Okay, so I did bring to you a chart on the Ogham. I'm going to tell you right now, this is tiny. I tried to make it as big as I could for you, but I would recommend you Google it. This was a chart that I purchased so that I could share it with you guys in Luminous, but I don't think it's the best one out there. It's just what I could do for you and, not steal someone else's work. I wouldn't do that. But I would go to Google and you can find them bigger. But if you see here on the side, maybe I can blow this up a lot. Yeah, I can. These are the symbols, right? They are just lines. They're just various lines facing one way or the other. And then you'll get down to these last five that are the late entries. The spindle, the honeysuckle, the gooseberry, the L campaign. Those are all ones that aren't in the originals, but they're here. So you can choose to use them or not, but they're the ones that are a little bit more modernized. So that's what they look like. But again, if I were you, I would maybe not use my chart. You can if you want to. If you can blow it up on your phone and use it, that would be amazing. But you know, I I will freely tell you I think there's probably better charts out there, but I didn't have time to make my own, and also I wouldn't steal someone else's work, so I purchased this one to share. But Christie's energy exercise is Kuan Yin relief. I don't know what's going on in your world, but if you need some relief from stress or nonsense or illness, do this meditation. It is a really good one. Over at True Crime Squad, of course, we have everything going on with Lori Daybell this week, and then hopefully we can move on from her and talk to some other things. Jamie Dawn has a brand new video, a celestial wisdom video about Mars in Leo, the Sun in Taurus, and Saturn and Venus in conjunction. So she's got a lot of good thoughts about what you might be experiencing this week. Of course, leading up to a new moon, I think, over the weekend. There's lots of not new, but there's lots of meditations over at Planet Meditation. And that's it for Luminous. If you want to subscribe to receive Luminous, you can do that by heading over to, if you're on the, if you're watching the live stream, sorry, my brain disappeared for a minute. If you're watching the live stream, you can find it by just heading over to the show description. And there's links in there for several things. One of them is to subscribe to the Daily Dish. That's the daily reading that I send out every morning, and then Luminous that comes out every Tuesday morning. So you'll get 8 emails a week from me and nothing else ever. And that's how I use your email, is to send you good stuff. So that's how it works. But you can just subscribe right there. Simple enough. Okay, so that's what I've got. I hope I can get you guys excited about just trying something different or stepping way back into the past to something so ancient. I really like the idea of creating a few staves or oghams that are for guidance in various ways. So you can probably expect to see some come out of me in my Etsy store here in the next couple of months to come, of individual staves that have, a meaning of something that might be helpful to you. I think I'll probably start making some. I want to wear some. I love the idea of that. You could always just draw one on yourself too if you wanted. If you just say you're going to a hard doctor's appointment, or you need some kind of guidance, or you're working on something hard, or maybe you need some safety and protection because of, Karen that works in the cubicle next to you, or whatever it is. No offense to Karens. Lots of reasons why you might be seeking a little bit of extra guidance or protection, right? So those are some thoughts. So if you do make staves, please send me a picture. I am dying to see them. I really want to see the kind of creativity that come out of all of us in various ways. And I'm going to start working on maybe a new set for myself, and maybe I'll put some sets up in Etsy. There's already some beautiful sets on Etsy too. I wanted to mention that. If you want a set and you haven't and you don't want to make them, there are some beautiful handmade sets on Etsy that you could consider. So, and I think I'll probably have some forthcoming, but it'll probably not be this month. Uh, yeah, you know, lots going on. All righty, you guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here and get back to Verdict Watch over at the Lori Vallow shit show. So, thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of my squad. Don't forget that I am a professional psychic advisor over at 12listen.com. And you can find me over there every day doing readings, healings, animal communication, tons of energy work. So if there's anything I can do to help you, just come see me. If you head over to 12listen, and of course that's number 2listen.com, you just look for me, Katie Weaver. If I am not there, because I'm there daily, but life. If I'm not there, just do a callback request or a scheduled call. Then I get a text that says, hey, this client is waiting on you, and I'll do everything I can to get to a point where I can sign in and speak with you. So you guys, I consider to be a part of my extended family. I take you on vacation with me. I take you anywhere I go because I want to be available to you and be there for you, when you need me. So that's an easy way to do it, but you'll find me there daily anyway. But I would love to connect with you over there. So thanks so much for being here, you guys. Take excellent care of yourselves, please. You deserve it. This has been yet another edition of the Katie Weaver Show here on 12 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.